Welcome to the Exploring Podcast. My name is Corin Young here at RK Studios, and this is our first episode in close to 2 years. And I'm excited to be joined by one of my good friends. This is Matt Green. He is a producer, writer, and director who began his career working on music videos in the late 1990s. This was back when music videos were like the biggest thing.
And you could make money doing it.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of went through a phase where you couldn't there was nothing in music videos for a long time, and then with the invention of YouTube, music videos are big things now. He's optioned scripts, he's written for television, he's directed feature films. He's also a professor in the communication department and the chair of the cinema and digital arts degree at the Masters University Online, where he shares his knowledge and love of the arts with hundreds of budding content creators. And he's one of my personal mentors when I got into teaching too, and I'm really happy to have Matt Green here. Welcome.
Thank you, Corin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, you know, one of my favorite things to do when we're working on our projects at the Masters University is share with the students how long we've known each other, because these students are young. They're like maybe 19, 20, 21, and we've known each other how long now? 25 years?
Something like that, yeah. 93 or 94? 94 is when we started at Valencia High School.
That's when you started. I started in 96, so I think that's when I first met you.
Oh, okay, got it.
In Mr. Babco's guitar class is like my first big memory with you.
And I sat in the back, and I could play the theme to Mission Impossible, and that was awesome. It. That was it.
Do you still play?
No, you're funny. I'm the one non-musical person in my family.
No, don't say that.
It's a bummer too. I wish that I could play piano. I love hearing my daughter play. She plays piano. My wife can play piano, and they'll sit outside in our living room and play, and it's relaxing. I love it.
Do you own a guitar?
No, I don't have a guitar.
You haven't even tried Mission Impossible lately?
It would be, I don't even know. If I could do G chord maybe, and that's about it.
You know what's funny? The one thing I remember most about being in that class with you wasn't so much any music that you were playing, but you were doing like voice impressions.
Oh, yes.
And your big one, let's see, you did George W. Bush, you were doing Bill Clinton, so you did a lot of political stuff.
That's right.
And now...
Still do the Clinton.
Now you're all about the Trump...
That's right. It's a big deal. I'm a big deal. I've done a lot of big deals, Corin. Thank you for having me here.
This is probably
you said that you haven't done a podcast in 2 years. Glad you're consistent. That's why I came on to help you make the show big. It's gonna be big. It's gonna blow up.
Bigly.
It's gonna be bigly.
Yeah, and you were in the drama department too, right?
I was a lot of drama. Yes, I was.
Yeah. Well, in the drama department.
The drama department. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes. I was in the drama department.
Do you remember the plays that you were in?
Oh, Corin. Let's see. I did one play, and I will be honest with you. I was. This is.
don't say you were man number 2 or something.
No. So here's the deal. We were doing Bye Bye Birdie, which I love. It's a fun musical, and I auditioned. And are you familiar with the show?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to be Conrad Birdie. Okay.
Of course.
And so of course that's the Elvis Presley thing. Well, he's not really the lead, but it's the flashy role. Okay. I'll try to Elvis Presley, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I'll be able to nail it. So I got up there and I was super pumped, and I didn't get that role, but I got the lead role.
Oh, which one was the lead role then?
I forget. It's the main character who I don't remember the guy's. I forget the guy's name, but I get that role. I get cast as that. But in my selfishness and pride, I said, that's not the role I want. So I went to the drama teacher. Do you remember the drama teacher?
Donna Manfredi?
Donna Manfredi, who's, I believe, at now a principal out here, or a vice principal at a school in Santa Clarita. And I said, I'm not going to be able to do it because of X, Y, and Z. I made up some lame excuse. And I don't think she was very happy with me. And so I gave up the main role because I was selfish and just didn't get the flashy role I wanted. To her credit, she was really cool. So she came back to me a couple months later and said, you do voices and all this kind of stuff. She goes, well, I know it's not a big role, but what's the name of the...
Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan, thank you.
I had a feeling that's what...
Ed Sullivan is in Bye Bye Birdie.
Yeah.
So typically most plays just play a recording of it. She said, well, you do voices. Can you do Ed Sullivan? And I said, well, I've never tried. So I said, well, let me see. So this was like 2 weeks before the show. So a week before, they start doing actual rehearsals on stage, and I'm supposed to come and do my thing. I'm literally on stage for 30, 40 seconds, okay? So I show up, and I do not have the voice. And I get out there and just completely botch
No.
My paragraph, it was not good. So I went home. I had a week. I said, okay. I told her, I said, listen, I know it was not good. I'll have it. So I went home, and again, we didn't have the internet the way we do.
There was no YouTube.
So I went to the library, and I got a bunch of old Ed Sullivan TV show tapes and watched hours of Ed Sullivan and got all the mannerisms down and the voice and got in, and boom. So I would show up like right before showtime, get in there, they do hair, makeup, whatever, get out, walk out, do my little bit, and it got like people loved it. And that was it. And then I was done.
Yeah, but that's awesome that she brought you back in, because you would have just been like, screw this whole program.
The fact that she didn't like just say, forget it. Like, honestly, it was a lot of grace that she showed me. And I've never forgotten that. And so I truly appreciated that from her. It made me appreciate her. So I actually she did these talent shows. And so I came back and hosted several of those.
In your Ed Sullivan voice?
No,
doubt.
I did do other impressions, but I don't think I did Ed Sullivan. Right here, that was kind of, I don't know.
It's a really big shoe.
It's really, really big. Right here, right now, now. That's a little high.
It's almost like a Kermit the Frog meets a Johnny Carson.
That's right. Johnny Carson. That's right. That was weird and wild. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. I love that. I love the impression. Now, the other thing I remember about you in high school was I was producing VTV, or what we called Viking television back then. The students today call it Valencia television, which kind of irks me, but that's not what it was originally called. Yeah. and you came on and you did some bits.
Yeah.
The most popular one, or the recurring one that I remember, was with Dominic Marcaselli.
Right. Which I believe he's like a high school teacher now, right?
Yeah. Well, he teaches. He's the ASB director at Castaic High School.
Okay.
But do you remember the shtick that you guys were doing?
I do. Yeah. It was the sketch that we had was I came on one day. And we were supposed to go back and forth on the news. Yeah. And he came on and he said his part. He started. And I go to say the next thing. He interrupts and takes my lines. And he continues to do that over the entire show. And I'm sitting there going, what the heck? Why is this guy? What? Like, as though it's not like whatever. Then I can't remember if it was the next day or then 2 days later. It came on the news. He's tied up. He's gagged. And I did the whole thing by myself.
I might even have like a second of that still somewhere. I wonder if I can find it.
I don't think we need to find it, but that's okay.
I think maybe we could.
Let's keep it in. We remember it fondly. It's probably not as funny as we remember.
I love finding clips of you in high school. Also, the airband competition, which is one of my favorites.
That's a fun one because they didn't air. It was supposed to be this big airband
event. Competition. That's right.
Yes, it was supposed to be, and nobody else signed up except me and Jeremiah Johnson and a few of our friends to do the Blues Brothers, and so we did the Blues Brothers, and that's on YouTube. So
I put it up on YouTube. I found the clip, and it's got you guys dancing as Jake and Elwood Blues, and in the background I'm sitting there like on top of one of the speakers or something like that, just like watching from the other side, because when I was in ASB, one of the perks was like being at the rallies and like getting to feel like I was important. So like I'm on the floor hanging out with the band, and that was fun.
I remember I've shown it to my kids. My daughter's like, wow, I didn't know you could move like that.
Yeah.
And so.
And you still move pretty well. You play basketball all the time. Like I'm
older now, so but
you're aging a lot better than most of us.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something that you and I didn't even know when we were talking 26 years ago, but we have another connection.
That's right.
And it's through Universal Studios.
I know, of all the things.
Like we both kind of grew up there. My Uncle Terry was started out as a tour guide there. And
same as my dad. My dad started as a tour guide as well.
Yeah, and then they ended up in kind of the same department, and they built a lot of the things. Terry was ended up as the executive vice president and general manager of the theme park, not of the studio itself.
And my dad was the entertainment director of the theme park, and they were basically best friends.
Yeah, for a long time.
Long time, very close.
And when did we find that out? It wasn't until Terry had passed away,
which I think it was about 10 years ago. No, it had to be because I've been at Masters for 7.
No, it was probably like maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
We were hanging out after mixing a film. We went over to Baja Fresh, where that's like our place to go.
Which is gone now. The Baja we always used to go to is gone.
It became something else, and then it became Patio Tapatio, which is a new place, and it's okay. It's a little expensive, but not bad.
But we're not doing placement for them, so until they sponsor the show,
so forget it. And it was so we were just chatting about something about Universal Studios, and you were like, okay, well, I think I know a little bit more about this than you guys, and you probably do. And
no.
And we said something about how Uncle Terry did something, and you're like, wait a minute, Terry Winnick? And we're like, yeah, how do you know that name? You're like, yeah, I've known him my whole life, pretty much.
Yeah.
And you said something about at the memorial, which was just like a couple weeks before that, you said, that your dad had spoken at the memorial. And I was like, really? Only 4 people spoke. His wife, his son, my cousin, me, and Jerry Green. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. Is Jerry Green Matt Green's dad? How did I
what a coincidence.
never know that? Yeah. And so, yeah, your brother was there, and I got to meet him too.
Yeah. It's such a small world.
Wait, that's not a Universal thing.
It's such a...
It's sponsored by Disneyland.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Just, and again, we sat in classes nearby each other in high school and had no clue. And that was back when, my dad and your uncle, were together every day.
Yeah, and not only at Universal for decades, but there was a short stint where Terry had left to go to the
Orlando.
San Diego Zoo, and then
that's right.
Orlando.
And the San Diego Zoo, so I have some great memories of that. So when he did the San Diego Zoo, my dad went down and hosted a bunch of the shows with Joan Embry. So Joan Embry was, back in the day when Johnny Carson had the Tonight Show, she was the animal wrangler that he would always bring on. And so I got to go to Joan Embry's house. I sat on a couple of, matter of fact, was bucked off one of her horses. And at that same time is when they had Cassoulet. Cassoulet is the horse from the Black Stallion.
Oh.
I sat on that horse. I have a picture somewhere at my house. Wasn't a Black Stallion, by the way. Legs were white. I had to paint it. I know I just wrecked your childhood, but it was really. I have some very fond memories of the San Diego Zoo.
You know what else is kind of funny? I was cleaning out when my dad and I were flipping houses. There was this guy that had like this old memorabilia, like he had tons and tons of stuff, and he took some of it with him, but a lot of it he just left, like a lot of the junk. Mm-hmm. And I found like these old VHS and 3/4-inch tapes promoting, they're like press kits from like different films and TV shows. And I found something from Universal Studios from back in the day. It was like a press kit video, or it was like Your Day at Universal or something like that. And in the animal actor stage...
Is my brother?
I see, like, what's your name? Jonathan? And I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, so I remember them filming that. So they actually filmed the entire Animal Actors show. And they always brought a little boy or girl up. Typically it was a little boy for this one segment of the show.
I know the bit.
And they used my brother when they actually recorded it and did the filming.
I think it's especially embarrassing for a boy for this particular bit.
Yeah, right, because the orangutan goes out and grabs a brassiere and goes back in with it.
Yeah.
And
because you're supposed to whisper something to the
that's right.
to the monkey and say, hey, go bring back this article of
orangutan.
Okay.
Yes,
it's still to the primate. So yeah, you got to whisper something like,
that's
okay,
right. Like a hat.
Bring
they
back
say,
something.
You can tell, and it's actually a dog, right? That's right. No, it's an orangutan, right? No, it's a dog. It's a dog. You whisper it to the dog. The dog goes back, grabs it, and brings out a hat. Like, so you can take 2 things. And so then he's whisper another thing, and it's like maybe it's supposed to be a shirt. This time goes back, and then it's a brassiere. And then the orangutan with a towel wrapped around it comes walking out.
That's what this bit was. Yes. Stole it from the orangutan.
That's right. That's right.
That was pretty funny.
It was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's always embarrassing because it's this little boy. Then you asked, you little.
Yeah, in front of hundreds of people.
Right. So I remember them doing that, and they used my brother because I'm sure he was free. And yes, we had a lot. Like growing up at Universal, I had so many memories of those. I remember my dad. This was at the height of the '80s when Different Strokes was huge, right? Mm-hmm. So you had Gary Coleman and Kim. I forget her name, and then Fields.
I only remember Gary Coleman, who later ran for governor.
Yeah, well, so everybody ran for governor, and. My dad had set it up that they were going to be doing some kind of live thing, and so I was going to get to go meet them, and it was just going to be me backstage with them. And I've been looking forward to it all week, and I get to go meet Gary Coleman. I mean, this is like the biggest show on TV, right? So I walk into that room, and I see them, and I just froze. And I was so, like, I don't remember saying anything. And so I'm like, man, what a bummer. But yeah, so I've met Gary Coleman and all them at the height of Different Strokes, baby. So
wow,
yeah,
that's a pretty cool. I'm sure you've got tons of celebrity stories and celebrity friends who you bring in on different projects. Before we get into the current stuff, I want to talk about your beginnings because I know that you've written stuff for TV, you've optioned stuff. How did you kind of get into the world of filmmaking?
So growing up and I was curious if this is the same way it was for you. So growing up at the studio, Universal, it was tough to, like, how do you grow up around that and not want to be a part of it?
Right.
So, I mean, was it the same for you?
Yeah, I was very much inspired by it. Like, even though we were kind of hanging out on the theme park end and not so much the studio, the studio tour was always really exciting.
Right.
And to be able to see where stuff happened. And I think also just kind of living in Southern California, and you know people who know people, like,
right.
There's that magic. And so I was making videos even as a kid.
But there's 4 brothers in the Young family.
Yeah.
And 3 of which have all gone into content creation, media, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's got to say, I mean, again, that didn't happen in, my kids. They're growing up around it. None of them want to do it.
No, come on.
They don't.
Your kids are getting into it.
No, they don't.
They don't want to do it. Your daughter's getting into the program. Your son's got like
my daughter wants
TV
to be
series.
And my daughter wants to be poli-sci major, which I totally fine. I've told my parents, and I'm sure your parents are the same. My parents were super supportive when I was growing up. They're like, listen, find your passion, go do that. They didn't want to pigeonhole me into something. And I appreciate that. Well, so I'm the same way with my kids. I'm like, if they want to do this, awesome, but I'm not going to push them into it because then it's not passionate.
That's still like the opposite of a lot of parents. Like, if your daughter wants to get into poli-sci, you're like, okay, but maybe you should do filmmaking to fall back on.
And nowadays, right?
Yeah.
It's like, maybe, that used to be everything our parents said growing up you can't make money at, or all the things you can make way more money at now. And so, it's kind of funny.
Well, my youngest brother, Sean, started doing videos on Vine when he was in high school. And he started getting like sponsored video posts where he'd get a few $1,000 or like thousands of dollars to make like these little 6-second videos. And I remember, like, my parents are always supportive of everything, but they were like, well, you got to fall back on something. If you like sports, maybe go to school for, kinesiology or something. But making videos on Vine, like, isn't a career. And now he makes a living creating TikTok videos.
Right.
I mean, that's like a real thing.
And not everybody can. Obviously, your brother's naturally gifted with that kind of stuff, right? And he's a hustler and he's sharp, and so he knows how to maneuver. So, but again, it speaks to the fact that, hey, if you're gifted at that kind of stuff, you can make a good living doing these things. We have the chair of our department at Masters, Dr. Bob Dixon. His daughter graduated a few years ago from Masters, and through the pandemic, she was working for a marketing company, got laid off. During the pandemic, she's like, okay, well, she started doing the TikTok and the Twitch, and blew up, playing video games.
Yeah.
And building an audience and a connection with people, because it's a communal thing, right? Everybody desires to be a part of something. And that's what some of these social media platforms have done, is given people a community. And she's used that in a brilliant way. And she's super sharp with what she does in her content and the way that she interacts with her audience. And that's she's killing it. She's killing it.
Yeah, it took me a while to understand why people want to watch someone else play video games, because for me, like, I'd rather like play a game than watch somebody play it.
Right.
But what I figured out is, if you like doing something, you probably like watching that thing too. Like, watch people that are really good at it. Like, I don't want to watch people play golf on TV, but if I love to play golf, maybe I want to watch the really good people play golf, or people who I can't imagine watching the Food Network, the cooking shows.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not into that at all.
No,
but if I enjoyed cooking, maybe I'd want to see that.
Okay.
Or I think the reason that travel vloggers are so popular is because people that love to travel or wish that they could want to see through somebody else's lens. And that goes
what I'm seeing come up in my Instagram feed right now is these short little tutorials on how to do stuff on Photoshop.
Yeah, and I get a lot of that too.
Yeah, and I just watch them.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
They know that you watch them too.
Of course they do, right? But back to that thing. I like doing stuff in Photoshop. I like doing design and everything like that. And so, boom, I'll sit there and watch the little bit. And I guess obviously there's a lot worse stuff I could be watching on that. So if that's what's in my feed, I guess it's a little encouraging.
Yeah, I get a lot of like photography tips and tricks and stuff that I started looking up when I started teaching. I better learn this stuff. And YouTube is such a great resource because everything you want to know is out there.
It is.
So speaking of teaching, you went from producing
brilliant
content.
Segue, by the way.
Yeah?
This is why you're the host. That was so good.
This is why I hired myself for this gig. You got into teaching at the Masters University.
Yes, I did.
And basically rebuilt the program. I mean, there's kind of like a pre-Prof Green era, and then there's like the newer era. And the students seem to be really getting a lot out of it. And you guys do things a little bit differently than anywhere else. And so I'd like to hear a little bit about how the program operates and the different kind of productions that you've done over the years.
Sure. So I came back about 7 years. I came to the university 7 years ago when Dr. Bob Dixon, I mentioned just a few minutes ago, became the chair of the department. And I'd known him in the past. And he said, hey, he knew my background and was like, would you want to come teach some courses with us? You know, they had a program and it was called Electronic Media and had been running since the 90s. And back in the 90s, electronic media kind of was a term that was often used for, you know, programs like that.
Okay.
And but at this point in the 2000s, it had become archaic in terms of name, you know, because content creation is just, it's not electronic. It's so much more than that, right?
Yeah.
And so he said, would you, and I said, I don't want to teach. I have no desire. I don't want to do that. I hated school. So something that we didn't talk about when we talked about the school is I graduated high school a year early because I wanted to get out. Mm-hmm. Went into junior college at College of the Canyons and just did not take it seriously. I wasn't ready to be a student. And when I got married in 2003, my wife had graduated, had her degree. And she's like, you know, you should really think about going and getting your bachelor's. And so I did about a year, 2 years into our year or 2 years into our marriage, got my bachelor's.
So that's when you started taking it seriously. You were 25 when you started.
So
really.
So I went back and did school. I had a new appreciation because now I was working in the industry. I was doing business stuff, and I had done other jobs, worked for different companies outside of the industry as well. And I understood I wanted to be better. So I got my bachelor's in business, and that has been instrumental in helping me on the producing side. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, well, having that bachelor's, little did I know, would allow me then to be able to teach later on. All these things, how they work out. You know, I'm not somebody who just believes in luck or anything like that. Again, I'm a Christian, and so I believe that providentially all these things play out for a reason. And so it came about, and Bob reached out to me, and I said, like I said, I don't want to teach. I hate school. But I was like, he's like, well, just do 2 classes. Just do 2 classes.
That's a lot.
It is, yeah, as an adjunct. You know, I was starting as an adjunct. He says, if you like that, great, you can come on full time. If you don't like it, you know, no harm, no foul. So I was like, all right, I'll get in there and do it. And I loved it. Like almost, I saw the possibilities. All the things that I had learned over the years, I was now being given the opportunity to try and impart to other people. And I think there's great value in trying to encourage people with these artistic gifts towards using them for some kind of purpose. And so I started, and it started with 2, and then the next year they brought me on full time. And immediately my goal was, I was like, listen, we're not USC, we're not UCLA, we're not New York Film School, we're not Biola, APU, in terms of size and scope of what we can do with facility. So I said, we've got to come up with ways to be unique. And I like those type of challenges because it forces me to get creative. And so that's the business. So to me, not having the resources that somebody else might have, well, that's independent filmmaking at its best, right? And so you get creative. And out of not much money is when you typically get the most creative. And so I said, we've got to do stuff. When a student leaves here, they've got to have stuff that looks good for their reel and stuff for their resume, credits. And so we started about 2 years into the program, this thing called the Winterim production that we do every year. Mm-hmm. And the first time we did it was a 1940s film noir, black and white, short, about 23-minute. So it's almost like a little mini pilot called A Hard Gamble. And to this day, it's one of my favorite things we've ever done because it really plays like an old 1940s noir. I love noir. And so I actually taught a class at Masters that I've now passed on to another professor, but all on film noir. It's what's great about noir is you can, first of all, it's very stylized. in terms of story and
what
structure.
Makes something noir? Like it's the lighting. It's
so a lot of people think that
it's
so film noir means
too, though.
It is. So the film noir it means black film. Mm-hmm. So inherently it deals with shadows, but you can have noir in color as well. Matter of fact, there's a whole new set since like the early 80s called neo-noir, where it would be using some of the kind of the lighting kind of style that you have here, but it's dealing with darker subject matters. Typically, it deals with the human condition. So film noir started in the 1940s with a movie called Double Indemnity. That's where they
one of my favorites.
Love it. It's a great movie. And it's Fred MacMurray, who most people, again, from my generation, remember from Disney movies. Absent-Minded Professor and some of these Disney classics, The Shaggy Dog. And he plays this salesman, this insurance salesman. And there's always a femme fatale. But what I love about noir is, like I said, it deals with the human condition, allows you to get into some really interesting topics and subject matter. And those old movies are great too, because I think now a lot of films nowadays, everything's shown, right? A lot of these old movies dealt with subtext, and that's what's not said. And what's not said is often more powerful from a storytelling standpoint than what is said. I can put stuff, imply things to you as a viewer, let your imagination take over. That's far more powerful. It's what Spielberg did with Jaws. That's why that movie works so well, because you are the one who's creating the imagery before you see that shark of what's going on.
Yeah, we see it a bit, but
a little bit, but
what we see isn't that convincing. So
100%. So Hitchcock was a master at this. Mm-hmm. You didn't see most of the violence in his films. It was all implied violence.
Well, and also you weren't allowed to. Like, he was heavily censored.
But because of that, he was forced to come up with creative ways, and he realized it shaped how he made movies because he understood it was far more powerful to do. That's why the whole MacGuffin component came up, where he created this device that you don't know what it is necessarily, but you know there's something. Well, now the imagination takes over. It could be this, it could be that, and it plays, and it's far more powerful.
Yeah, well, he also had elements that the characters cared a great deal about, but weren't that important to the story. Like
sure.
In Psycho, for example, one of my favorites, when Marion steals that $40,000, it's a big deal for her and for the detective and for the people who lost it, but a few minutes into the story, she's very irrelevant.
It's irrelevant because she's killed off, right? She's killed off, and then that's not what the story's about at all.
Yeah.
It's a total misdirect in regards to what the real crux of the story is. So, I don't even know how we got off onto this.
Well, we're talking about Hard Gamble and
that's right. Okay.
The
different
programs.
See, I'll just get going. This is the teacher side of me. I just start talking and rambling. You got to corral me.
That's
okay?
good. Yes, right. You could fill a whole class period with chit chat.
Just chit chat. But it wasn't just chit chat. There was substance to what we were talking about. So we did an original musical, which was, you were there when we went down to Capitol Records and recorded, which is, we were in the room where the Beatles and some of the most famous acts had recorded and got to hear a, 30-piece orchestra record in there. It was phenomenal. It was such an experience.
Yeah, so that's one of my favorite things about working with the Masters University. There's a few things going on there. One is I feel like usually in film schools, because I went to Cal State Northridge, and they had a pretty good program, and I was happy with all the instructors that I had there.
They got a great program.
But I think like most programs, they're just like, okay, well, the 5 of you are going to have to get together and like make a film, and you just have to go out and figure some stuff out. Sure. And at the time, we were just like shooting on film. I don't think anyone's doing that anymore. But you get to be a director in this film, and on the next one you get to be an editor, and on the next one you get to be the DP. And just kind of figure things out. And so that's kind of what I did. And so when I graduated, I felt like I was kind of a jack of all trades, but master of none. When there were other students that they worked on 5 projects and they were the editor on every single one of them. And they ended up with a really good editing reel, but they still had to figure everything out on their own. Versus what you're doing over at the Masters University is you bring on professionals from different aspects of the industry to work alongside the students.
Right.
And so they get to work with professional, like union lighting, equipment, lighting, and DP.
So
and
again, a lot of departments, it's mostly theoretical, and then here's the equipment, go make it, right? Which there is value in. We still do that in our program, okay? But we always do these winter productions where the students get, they're right now, the one we just did, which was a TV pilot called The Shade. It's a superhero TV pilot that you came and worked with us on. And you've worked on every single project that we have done since I started at Masters.
Yeah, just to recap, we had like a sci-fi, film that took place on a spaceship.
That's right.
We had a musical that was inspired like after the students saw La La Land and said, we want to make one of these.
Right.
We had the film Noir.
Right.
We had a Western, which was so cool to go out there and shoot on location, like with horses, with firearms.
We took 61 students at the height of COVID. Took 61 students.
Well, we have a new height, but at the time,
whatever. And okay, so that's one of the things that. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that. Okay, but at the height of COVID. I mean, this was at like the height of COVID, right? I mean, with all the restrictions, everything. We took 61 students and 10 or 15 industry professionals out 3 hours from here into the middle of nowhere and shot, and no one came down with COVID.
Yeah,
that was a blessing. That was again, I think the Lord kind of watching over us and looking out for us. But you've been on every single project. And this is why I think you're teaching now, because you have that natural desire to share knowledge with other people. And so you've worked on every project in sometimes different capacities. And so we did that. And then 5 years into the program, we made a feature film, which I'll be honest with you, is the way that all came about and happened was so outside of my control. This department, filmmaking, right? It's not one person,
right?
It's I've been blessed to have the support of the administration, because some of this stuff was outside their wheelhouse, and I've come in with some crazy ideas, and they've been nothing but supportive of wanting to do this stuff, because they understand, like, this is a like you said, a budding, a growing industry. And it's not just filmmaking, it's not just TV, it's, content creation and all the different facets that it takes on. And so when I came in and pitched them the feature film, they were super supportive.
I love that. Every time you pitch something to them,
they've said yes.
They bite, yeah.
They said yes. Now, again, we're the producer side of me, I try to do stuff that's not crazy, right? In terms of financial costs and all that kind of stuff. I try to be fiscally responsible.
Yeah, but when you've produced a lot of 10 to 15 minute films and you're like, okay, how about a feature length film? It's a big deal. Yeah,
it is a big jump. The crazy thing about that movie is we shot the entire movie in 8 days, which is nuts.
Now, for a feature film, I think standard is like 30 days.
I mean, so your Hallmarks, all those, they shoot 15.
Okay, well, TV movies, sure.
But again, those, there's a pipeline. That's the same companies coming in, boom, 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 banging these hands. So it's a well-oiled machine. 20 days on a low budget is pretty standard.
Okay.
And so we did it in less than half of that. And so is it the movie perfect? No. But I'm really proud of what we did. We had 50 students that worked on that. On the TV pilot that we just did, it was 90% student and 10% professional on that show, which speaks to, I think, the other professors that we've been blessed, the other professionals that have been there working, because these students now many of these students have worked with you on numerous projects. And so with that builds consistency. And so they're learning all these different things, all these different areas. It's such an immersive, these winter ones, they run over a week. And so we shot the pilot in a week. And it's immersive. There's not anything like that in terms of you're there. We built a really cool set, and the students are just there. And I tell them at the beginning, it's going to feel like a camp, because you're going to go and you're in the middle. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. And then at the end, you're gonna be like, it's over, really?
Yeah.
Like, can't we keep shooting?
Yeah, and the students are awesome. I love working with them every year and every semester, because they have such a desire to learn. Like they want to get their hands dirty and do everything. So some students are eager to go out there and be in the action and boom, and they get to listen to it in real time, and they can see how they're holding it and how that affects the audio. Other students want to be controlling the soundboard, or they want to be clapping the slate and marking everything or communicating with everyone. And because I work mostly in the sound, production and post-production. And some of the students, as you said, I've gotten to work with on multiple productions. Some of them I've even had intern for me.
Yes,
over the years.
That's right. You've had a couple do that, and that's been a blessing for us. So, and I tell the people this all the time, the relationship that I have with you and your brother Ryan with RK Studios is not a working relationship. It's really like a family type of relationship. It would feel out of sort for me to do a project without you guys because of just the bond that we have. So anybody who goes and does this knows that, like I said, it takes a village of people to make happen. And you guys come in, and it's really where the movie gets made, is on that post side. We go and make it filming, but between the editor, the sound mixers, the score, all that stuff, that's really where the movie comes together and feels like a movie. Or a TV show.
Yeah, it's fun watching the dailies, but you're right, it feels very different to see it after it's been color graded.
I hate showing people rough cuts of stuff that aren't in the industry because it's almost impossible for them to visualize what it's going to be like when it's done. So you show them a rough cut, and they're like, "This is terrible! Like, man, we made a mistake." and
so you say never show your investors until it's done. Is that
that's
the deal?
right. And so I'll tell them, I say, "Hey, listen, just trust me. Give me another month." And we'll become, and that's one of the things that'll be happening. We're gonna, on the TV pilot, we're gonna be locking that the end of this month, and then it'll be coming to you guys to start working on all the sound stuff.
Yeah,
so.
that one's gonna be an exciting one, as was the Western, which is one that we did last year. Some of the other projects. So you mentioned that the feature. What happens to that when it's done?
Yeah.
Is that something that the students get to, like back in our day, we used to like make a DVD or a VHS and you put it on your shelf and you get to be proud of it for the rest of your life and no one else gets to see it.
Right.
Does anyone get to see these
Yeah,
films?
sure. So all the content that we've done, whether it's a big elaborate short film or the student short films, the TV pilots, all that stuff is on our Vimeo page, TMU Comm Department on Vimeo. But the feature film is on streaming exclusively on a platform called PureFlix. It's a faith-based film, and so that was a good home for it.
Right. So it
got distribution,
got real distribution.
Right. It's also on Amazon. You can rent it on Amazon or buy it on Amazon.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah,
and students to see their name in the credits of something.
Right. And so the TV pilot, we'll see. We've got some places we want to take that to. We've got another series that we're in development for that maybe we'll shoot this summer, maybe not. We're in post-production. This one's a long post-production process, but we're doing a kids TV show called Franklin and Beans. We shot 8 episodes, of which I think we'll have the first 3 because it's half live action, half animation. And so the animation stuff we're doing with students, and so it just takes longer, right?
Yeah, my goodness.
And so I think at the end of this semester we'll have 3 of the episodes completed. And so maybe that's what we'll do is we'll launch the first season as 3 episodes. And it's going to take a little bit longer to get that one done. But, we're trying back to being fiscally responsible. We're trying to do these things, in a manner that's within our means, budget-wise. And so, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of really cool projects. Got another full-length feature Western that is very close to going. So hopefully that'll happen. And I've been working with a streaming platform called Vire that has all of our short films on there. We're also on another platform called Up TV. They actually are on a lot of cable platforms as well, but they also have a streaming platform.
That's cool to have your shorts available, because back in the day, I used to love producing shorts because you could do it really quickly with your friends and get it out there. But I work for a lot of companies in the film distribution business, and they are so not interested in acquiring shorts because, at least back in the day, they knew that nobody would touch a short with a 10-foot pole.
Well, and people
aren't buying shorts.
Yeah, there was a point too where you could put your stuff on. Well, you can still put your stuff on Amazon. They were allowing short films, but I'm pretty sure they got rid of that.
I don't know.
It's changed.
I feel like in the world of digital distribution, though, like Netflix could totally have a 14-minute film, and it doesn't cost them anything. They're not scheduling it theatrically. They're not trying to sell a 14-minute film next to Transformers on the shelves at Walmart. Like, you could watch it and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like all the platforms could totally have shorts now, and it's awesome because I love working on shorts.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Again, it's a good way to be able to be experimental in terms of just genres and everything like that. It's funny, we've done pretty much every genre. And so I'm trying to think like, well, what did we do? I'm not sure what we did.
Yeah, so you've done the sci-fi film, you've done noir.
We've done the musical.
You got the musical.
We've done drama. We've done
the western.
We've done
the superhero film.
That's right.
So like, what's next?
I know.
You've conquered every.
I don't know, man.
I mean, I guess the students are only there for 4 years, so you can kind of start.
Just do it all over again.
Yeah.
We'll just remake everything.
Yeah, or sequels.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, again, hopefully the series. Something will come of that, and we could do more episodes.
Okay. Well, I know you didn't run out of creativity, so you've got something cool in the pipeline, no doubt.
I just got to go take a shower. That's usually where the ideas come.
Well, everyone's got their inspiration.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Matt, I'm so glad that you got to come in and chat with me about all this stuff today. You've been a great mentor for me, as I learned how to teach.
You're very kind. I have not. If anything, I've learned stuff from you. So you're very gracious, but thank you. But
well, here's to 25 more years and working together and staying friends.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate you and your whole family. The Youngs, RK Studios. Make sure you need any post-production services. This is the only place to come to.
It took that long to get to the plug. Well, thank you guys all for listening. This is the Exploring Podcast. My name is Corin Young. This podcast is available on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast. If you like it, please give it a 5-star review and subscribe. Thanks for listening.